Okay, here we go. Here is the story that I've uncovered regarding the origins of everything. It's gonna probably sound pretty crazy. I just want to present all the revelations and information that I've come across and see if it helps anybody. What usually happens is most people say, oh, how do you know? How do you know this is real? How did you find this out? It's because I've done a lot of research and most people haven't. All the information that I know, it's out there. A large portion of my life was dedicated to learn the things of the Bible, the things of God, everything that relates to it. I've held on to it preciously. It's something that's very near and dear to me, but now I just want to put it out there and see if it helps anybody. But I know I might come across as crazy and there might be a lot of crazy comments out there. But I'm open to any other information that other people might have to share. This is not gospel truth, but this is something I just want to present out there. But what I would ask is just humor me. Just take it as entertainment. I do think it's an interesting story. If I'm making anything up, that I would think is a compliment in itself, because some of the stuff is pretty creative, I would say. I'll start with the beginning. In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. And so I'll start with heaven. And in heaven, we have God the Father. And it's important to note that He is a Father. And He is love incarnate. Everything He does, who He is, why He does what He does, it's because of love. It's not an exaggeration. It's the most powerful thing. We don't fully understand the concept of love yet. Our idea of love is still very primitive to what it really is, and God is love. So in heaven, we have God the Father, and inside of God, one thing about Him is He is impregnated with us. And the way that works is, inside of God, He's not filled with organs and tissue and stuff like that. Inside of God is another realm, another reality. And if you could accept it, we all were in Him at one point or another. And there's a Bible verse that says, in Him we lived and breathed and had our being. Some of us knew each other. We all played. There was not a care in the world. And we all waited for the day where we could go on earth. And each and every one of us was carefully planned and created. There was meetings about each and every one of us with the Word, which was Jesus. But He was not Jesus yet. He's known as the Word. There was the Holy Spirit, God the Father, and they would plan each and every one of us for eons and eons went on. And they would talk about the things that we would like, the things that we were going to do, the way that we would help and serve, the things that we would invent and create. This is important to note because Lucifer had the unique ability out of the three archangels to step inside of God into that realm. And that's what Ezekiel, the book of Ezekiel, was referring to when it starts talking about Lucifer real quick and how he was able to walk the paths of fire. And then it starts talking about Lucifer and his gemstones and how great he was at, before everything. Because Lucifer was one of the three archangels that we are kind of familiar with. Gabriel is in charge of the admin angels, who are more human-like in appearance. Michael is in charge of the hosts of heaven, which is the armies of heaven, which is a weird thing at that time because there is nothing to protect. Or is there, right? I mean, God doesn't need protecting. Heaven doesn't need protecting. But they would train and prepare for a long time. I mean, a long time. And these guys were not humanoid in appearance. These guys are weapons in themselves. We would freak out if we see them. But then there was Lucifer, who was in charge of 1/3 of the angels, who was in charge of the worship angels. And it was his job to conduct the worship and gather all the worship, all the glory, and he would take it in and he would usher it to God the Father, inside the Father. But one day, Lucifer decided out of his own accord, his own volition, to usurp God, to go up against God. He thought he could do it better, whatever. He wanted to go up against God. And so he tries to recruit other people to his side. But of course, when he approached Gabriel's group, they all rejected. Michael's group totally rejected, laughed, kicked him away. But he was able to convince his third of the angels. At the right time, God confronts Lucifer. And story I'm heard is Michael's holding Lucifer, but there's not even a fight. In a split second, with a flash of lightning, God kicks out Lucifer to earth. And that was the first big spectacle, the first big show to note from God the Father. One quick thing I thought was important to point out is the part where I said that we all lived inside of God. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's not as crazy as the idea that God lives inside of us. And this is not all fantasy. If it's real, it's real. So God, where we used to live inside of him, he's made something where now he can live inside of us. If you hear my whole story, eventually you'll find out that God created heaven, but eventually the end game is he's gonna move out of heaven and create a new home with us. It's a crazy story. Like and subscribe. The saga continues.